getting themselves a bit of an initiator there, taking the Sand King with their third pick.
Yeah, and that would have been another really good hero for Valkyrie. I think when you ban out the Luna and the Monkey King, you allow yourselves to possibly put that Bloodseeker 1, which we've seen a lot of CIS teams do recently. But speaking of CIS teams, you got Sand King, you got Collapse, best hero for that player, and he made it look as broken as this hero can be. He's got a lot of things going for him. He has a very consistent early game, and he is a lot of magic burst that a hero like Bloodseeker, you have to think twice about when you actually Blood Rage those targets, as well as being one of those heroes that very naturally plays versus heroes like the Dawnbreaker, like the Io, where as soon as you bring another person in, that's just another hero to be stunned up by the Sand King. I think if he can get a lot out of this lane, again, it's one of the most consistent offlaners in the game. You don't really ever get shut out of doing your job. And
Hmm.
Medusa will be the pickup for DNM. Okay, it looks
All
like we're going to
right.
have a damage race now. Because Pango, Sand King, Edge, they provide a hybrid amount of damage, but that's where Medusa doesn't really care.
Yeah, and with the Earth Spirit pickup, we get that sort of first into the fight initiator that we were talking about them lacking with the Bloodseeker selection. So we'll see if Giant, or I assume it's going to be Giant, can play the Earth Spirit much like he played the Clockwork before. That was really so big for them, but as you mentioned, things kind of dropped off later, and that's a downside when you have an initiator like that in your position for a role. It is a benefit when he is hitting those plays, but once you hit that moment, and unfortunately most teams will recognize it when it happens, when you hit that moment when you are no longer just getting it as a benefit and now relying on it almost exclusively to jump in, things go poorly. But Giant showed us what he could do for most of the previous match. We'll see if he can do it again. Meanwhile, for D2 Hustlers, the sniper with the forced selection there.
Yeah, and I'm very interested to see where D2 Hustlers actually end up running this, whether this is going to be either a Yuma or a Mr. Jeans hero. I think you could spin it in both lanes, but Sniper versus Medusa, this is the old counter. You very simply outrange the Medusa. A lot of teams, whenever a Sniper was objectively bad, just decided to put Lena in that same position for the exact same purpose. You outrange the Medusa, but the Medusa now needs to go for items like the Swift Blink. You have to get on top of the Sniper every single time. Otherwise, your base is not breaking. You are always going to just beat into this snake. And that's where we're going to be in a similar situation in the previous draft where four Gringos are put on a little bit of a timer here. They're going to need to rely on getting the sniper. It's the pressure is all on Giant. Again, if he drops the ball, D2 Hustlers are going to press that advantage. And I think now we're going to see a very similar type of playstyle coming out of four Gringos. But if they hit those marks, the biggest problem about this safe lane or core sniper is if you don't get those key items, you are just a sniper. You hit for basically nothing versus a hero that is definitely going to be marching up to your high ground eventually. D2 Hustlers are playing the delay game again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see what they can do for that sniper. But as you said, it's really going to depend on where it's actually going. Your guess is kind of as good as mine at this point. We have suspicions, but nothing confirmed as of yet. Although for Gringos, you see with those bans, Lesh and Invoker, kind of leaning in one direction in terms of where they think this is going to end up. For D2 Hustlers, however, it's pretty straightforward for them. They need to ban out mid-heroes. We see the Ember Spirit being taken away first. Already took out the Storm earlier on. Do they worry at all about another Void Spirit pick? It felt like last time, for the most part, they were able to sort of keep it contained, and yeah, they're not going to be worried too much about it. Instead, the Queen of Pain being banned out.
Yeah, and it does now allow, if they want, kits to pick up that hero, but I do think both the Queen of Pain and the Ember Spirit a little bit higher priority. Of course, Queen of Pain does half of your sniper's HP with one spell. Don't really want to have to deal with that. And Ember Spirit gets to a point where a team like D2 Hustlers has so far, you've got absolutely no lockdown aside from that Blink Burrow Strike, something that Ember Spirit could very easily itemize for. In addition to that, you get Aghanim Scepter, and then Sniper can't play the game.
Ooh.
And now for Gringos go for the Hunt hero. This is a
Mm.
good Hunt hero, but it's very, very fragile. Also playing very well versus Pango, but it's one stun. It's one mess up initiation where still that area of execution is a very fine line. If four Gringos can play that very good mix of both defensive and offensive action, then I think they could definitely spin it in their favor. But it's a risky pick, and D2 Hustlers just go for the straight up counter again. They just love counter picking D2 Hustlers, and they
Yeah.
say we're gonna make it a Mr. Jeans Pango. They're gonna run it mid regardless of the nerfs to Echo Saber. I'm a little bit scared, I'll be honest. The Puck versus Nyx, it's a reason why Puck wasn't picked for an entire patch, and now you're playing directly into that matchup. D2 Hustlers getting second pick for the second time in a row. It's an interesting choice that 4Gringos didn't want to take that from their opponents, but they're really into this counter pick delay strat.
Just feels so now unfortunate for the Puck, right? Because anytime you want to jump in, you have to look and see if the Nyx assassin is there, and if the Nyx is there, do you really want to go in? If you go in, you get stunned up, and as you mentioned, that Puck is notoriously, infamously fragile, squishy, and all it's going to take is one. If you get the Nyx assassin stunned, the Sand King can burrow in, and you've got more than enough damage from the rest of the lineup to at least get through kits. The Medusa may be a different story, but if that Medusa's fighting without one of your primary cores behind her in the Puck, then things get way more complicated. So I don't know. It feels like this Nyx pick really is going to make life tough for kits, but we shall see, as we are going to be loading on in. Game 2 getting started. D2 Hustlers looking for that 2-0 sweep, for Gringos hoping for the 1-1 draw here to put some points on the board at the start of the day.
Yeah, and that's where you do have to be really scared now. If Kits can walk away, of course, this matchup, as bad as it is, there are some things to look forward to for this Puck. The one biggest thing is if you are able to get a pretty massive level advantage over this Nyx assassin. Nyx hates being silenced. It's really at that moment where the Nyx isn't at full strength and you are, that you don't have to worry about him, but all it takes, in a very similar fashion to that previous game, is 1 or 2 deaths, and the game gets infinitely more difficult for you. And I think, unfortunately, Monster might have been able to scout out Kits placing his ward on the enemy high ground. So I think they're
Look at
waiting
all
to
the
give it over to
pings.
Mr. Jeans. Yeah, look at all those pings.
Only 2 reasons for that many pings. Either they spotted a ward or someone is very, very upset. And, you know, I don't think anybody's tilted all of 30 seconds into the game as Valky. Actually, okay. Nice play in there. Takes the tower shot, so he should know that there's additional vision in the area. Not sure if he's going to lock it down perfectly. Normally, we see it sort of off to the side a little bit further here, so they're going to have to be careful on that sentry placement if they do look to take that down, just in case they miss it. But both sides aware of those wards in the middle lane. Meanwhile, Pingu.
Yeah, and yeah.
Taking a little bit of damage. Devi's going to start things off with the stun. They would need, yeah, the slow and the body blocks both coming in. Meanwhile, the purple shrapnel coming down from the sky. Pingu, though, going to be able to jump away, but that is level 1 Celestial Hammer used, and still a lot of damage taken, as Devi maybe was going to go for it. The Impale was coming back up, but at that point, he was fairly certain he didn't have the damage to actually finish that kill, but that's honestly not too bad of a play for them. They're able to get the rune. They force out some of that early regen from the Dawnbreaker.
Yeah, and purple shrapnel really is just so pretty. I could look at it for hours.
Pingu?
Yeah.
TP'd up top, immediately getting hit up again, and if Devi can get in front... No, okay. Actually, he has the boots. Maybe he could have gotten in front, but doesn't get the angle in time, and Pingu... That was dangerous, and you see Monster sort of throwing the tip his way. I think Monster may have been maybe even a little confused as to what was going down there, but everything's going to be okay-ish for Pingu, just taking a beating here early on. Gets another salve delivered out to him, but while he was going back to get the salve, Devi is just stealing that creep wave away, blocks the camp while he's at it, and gets it back onto his own side. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Pingu.
and yeah, Pingu.
Double
again.
stun coming out. Do they have the damage this time? They need a little bit more, but Pingu is able to get away. DNM, I mean, he's doing everything he can, but it's a Medusa at level 2. There's only so much intimidation that he can apply, but Pingu is just burning through regen. That is now 2 salves. He used all of his tangos. He's got another stack coming out to him, so you're just burning through the regen and burning through the money here for the Dawnbreaker as well. So this sort of lane sustainability really not coming into play for him just yet. Meanwhile, over in the bottom lane,
Yeah.
Yodomi gets taken down. Giant's able to make it happen. Valky was dangerously low in HP. Uh-oh, is he going? He's in. Okay, Giant. We saw some stuff from him in game 1 on the Clockwork. Already off to a solid start there. Grabs first blood and says, why the hell not go for the additional kill as he picks up the double, and that... That's maybe a little bit of a highlight on some of the downsides of the sniper. Yuma just straight up could not get away once Giant wanted in on him.
In addition to that, you lose pretty much the entire wave there. You had to put down 2 shrapnels to try and get the slow on Valkyrie, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to go down there, and it's just the slight level tick up that lets that play happen, and you lose a little bit too much speed in this bottom lane. You are safe lane sniper. It does get more and more difficult for you, especially once those ES spells start hitting a little bit harder. And once you feel like you're okay to leave Valkyrie on his lonesome here, that's where we might see Giant venture off to that mid lane. It just feels like the plays get easier and easier for Gringos if this bottom lane is a success.
The more that they can sort of leave Valky to his own devices, the better off Giant's going to be as he tries to roll forward. Not on the mark that time, but you see them, they're just looking for those plays. They know if we're in onto Yodomi, Sniper probably can't help. Maybe he could get over in time to throw down one shrapnel charge, but Yodomi would take so much damage in the process that they could still sort of come out ahead. So an aggressive start as Yodomi, he wants the courier, able to get one hit down, but now he's in trouble. He gets slowed up, rolled in on. It's just that quick. They're able to just make the move at the drop of the hat, and Yodomi, he recognized after getting the first hit onto the courier that he wasn't going to get it, but then you can't get away. He's just too slow when he gets hit up by the smash and the blood right damage.
Yeah, and it's surprising that he continues to play that forward in the lane. As soon as you give up a few kills to these heroes, you really need to up that level of respect. But that's also where 4Gringos have done a really good job at blocking out a lot of these camps. They haven't allowed, really, Yodomi to get any of those big creeps, the situation where Valkyrie would be extremely upset in. But the highlight, I suppose, of all of this action in the bottom lane is that Yuma is still farming. He's not getting the most by any means, as you see DNM is getting the most in that top lane, but it's something, and it's something we saw a little bit of in the previous game as well. Regardless of lane, he still wins this carry matchup given the time.
And especially with the shrapnel, if Yodomi or really either of the supports maybe start stacking up some of those camps as well, the sniper may be able to get himself out of any sort of early deficit that we're seeing so far. But in the lane itself, it may still be a struggle as Valky gonna get hit up. Giant tries to roll in. They're gonna miss the mark, but they're still on the Yuma. The silence comes in. The slow's there as well. Valky will fall, but Giant wants it. He needs a little bit more damage to finish it off, and he is gonna be able to get that. Can Yodomi turn around? The impetus comes through, but it's not gonna be enough. So Giant able to find the kill. It is gonna turn into a 1-for-1 trade, but you've taken the sniper out once again, and you see Giant. He is rich for a position 4 hero at the 5-minute mark. He's already got the urn up, so we can see more activity from him. Speaking of activity, Bingo trying for the deny to the neutrals, but Mr. Jeans is able to run that one down. So the Pango makes his first sort of rotation out of the middle lane, able to get himself a kill, and well, he didn't really miss out on too much. Kits is still in the lane. He's going to clear up about a wave, but good plays from the Pango to try and make that kill happen. Meanwhile, up top, Monster kind of left alone in the 1v1 against DNM. His support goes back to base rather than immediately returning to the lane.
Yeah, and that's where DNM is having a really free time. But yeah,
Mr. Jeans hit by that. They actually didn't snap the coil with the kick, though. So Mr. Jeans, he's going to try for the Rolling Boulder, but the Rolling Thunder, rather. It gets silenced up instead. Giant still fighting, but he will be taken down. But with Kits still in this, maybe he can get it. Mr. Jeans, oh, that tower shot. Yep. Maybe he lives without that extra bit of damage, but he steps a bit too close, and that allows Kits to turn that into a 1-for-1 trade. Very much favorable for that 4Gringos side as, well, Giant called upon to sacrifice himself. Now, yeah, Devi's just going to hold that rune spot, and he will get the Arcane, keeping that out of the Puck's hands.
And unfortunately, it was a reactive TP from the Earth Spirit. I think they were really trying to play on Kit's level 6 there, so he's unable to fill the Puck's bottle, but the fortunate thing about that rotation is it is relatively free, but yeah, bottom. He just went with the roll. That's
TP
free.
Got canceled. Mr. Jeans comes in with the Rolling Thunder, and we're starting to see that Pango getting more and more active. First, he went into the west side jungle for the kill, then takes the fight mid, now rotates bot. So really starting to see Mr. Jeans get aggressive, which is really, as we sort of alluded to in the first match, this is where he is at his best. If he is able to be that active, aggressive hero, more often than not, he is successful. There have been, obviously, some times where he maybe oversteps a little bit, but with the Pangolier in his hands, it just feels like he is playing stronger, and you see him queuing up the Echo Saber. So the nerf to it really not going to change up the build all that much for the Pango.
Yeah, it gives you exactly what you want as well. Makes you a little bit tankier. It's just everything that you could possibly want in an item. I do wonder if he's going to possibly use his skills in a slightly different order, or if it really doesn't matter all too much. Of course, you were already maxing Shield Crash in the apex of this pack, or of this patch, so it doesn't feel like it's really going to affect him too hard in that same respect. But maybe once he tries to kite the Medusa later on, we'll see it actually come into play, but really shouldn't feel too bad.
I think Yodomi just sort of accidentally broke up a smoke play there. Giant had already crossed the river, and Kits was sort of crossing when the Enchantress sort of stepped between them. Didn't pop either of the smokes, but prevents that full rotation. And now Valky, he was anticipating getting a way more support than what he's got. Giant's obviously going to give it a go, but he'll immediately be taken down. And now Giant has to try and TP. Oh,
died in the fountain to the shrapnel.
That's... Oh, that sucks. He was out. He finished the TP, but yeah, the shrapnel still comes through for the kill. Yuma's able to get it, and I mean, Yodomi will never know the play that he just accidentally made for his team there. Without Kits' rotation, they just don't have the numbers, and now up top, Monster's getting jumped in on an exchange, so this is where you're going to see a potential trade-off as DNM will get that kill, but still going to be 2 for 1 across the map.
Yeah, and DNM is having a fantastic time. It's really difficult to play this lane when you have really not that much support coming in from Divine. Of course, he's going to take the mid lane whenever Mr. Jeans does get more active on the map, so there really isn't anyone to come help that Sand King.
Yodomi looking for help. There's Mr. Jeans coming in with the Rolling Thunder. They're looking for Giant first. Valky at this point is going to kind of have free reign to continue chasing the kill, but they want to at least turn it into a trade, and they will do exactly that. But now with Kits in, there's going to be that Dream Coil. They get the shots in from Yuma as... Or not from Yuma, excuse me. Threw maybe one hit in there, but they're just going to kind of leave Mr. Jeans. He's looking for the TP. Can he get away? Yes, he can. No lockdown really from either one of these heroes. That is the downside. The Dream Coil already used. So Pangolier gets away, and... Well... 1 for 1 on your supports. Technically speaking, D2 Hustlers get all of 17 more gold than their opponents, but it is another situation where we're seeing D2 Hustlers with Mr. Jeans trying to get aggressive. That fight goes down on their opponent's side of the map, so to a certain extent, you gotta like that. The longer that they're in this area, the less likely it is for some of these stacks to get out of control.
Yeah, and it's unlucky as well. You can still cast Shield Crash while you're in that coil. It just puts you in place. So level 3 Shield Crash on 2 heroes. It's really hard to find that kill, but
so spotted it. He's going to throw the Epi out to try and get this one, and yeah, that should be enough. Pingu taken down. He was hiding in that tree line for so long, but Monster's able to take him down, and now they've got a path onto the tier 1 tower. Top should be able to get this, although Kits, you see him TPing in. No Dream Coil for 5, though, so he's going to have to wait a little while, but wants to clear out the creep aggro. Giant comes in. The TP from the Bloodseeker actually ends up being canceled, but I think Kits and Giant can still find the kill onto Yodomi, especially with Monster kind of bailing out of this play, but you do see him coming back in. At this point, it's too late. The Burrow comes through, but he really is not going to be able to get this kill by himself, and now he's actually been hit up by the Dust as well, so he's not even safe inside of that Sandstorm, but it's still dishing out the damage, but there's going to be the Dream Coil. They kick him out of it to snap that tether, and they will be able to find the kill. Monster taken down. Mr. Jeans, at least, is able to turn it into some sort of trade-off, getting a kill onto that Bloodseeker, but you lose 2 up top, although, technically speaking, a 2 for 2. We go all the way back to the previous fight under that tier 1 tower top where Pingu got picked off.
Yeah, and it's hard to gauge how this early game is going right now, because I don't think Kits, he's not the most farmed puck in the world. He's definitely been focusing on trying to match the pace of Mr. Jeans, but Mr. Jeans with 6 kills has just been really clean, and both offlaners not really having the best time, especially Valkyrie, who isn't really on a recovery hero, even though Monster has had a little bit of a bad run-in with the Medusa. He's always able to farm it up and have those good item timings. Valkyrie is on a much harder hero to stay relevant with, even though you are playing versus this poor Pango. And that's where for Gringos, you have to be a little bit concerned. They're set up a lot worse than they were in that previous game, especially with this Dawnbreaker. You really can't see Pingu playing in this top lane by himself very successfully. He's got a few more levels, but he's not able to defend the tower in the same fashion that he was in that previous game. And that's where I think they've been playing a lot more stacked on the side of the map. And Okay.
Rupture onto Devi. There's going to be the roll-in from Giant, and they've dropped the sentry. Okay, so they have the vision. They'll get the kick there as well to make sure Valky gets the kill with the Rupture damage. But now Monster, Epicenter losing about half its duration there as it wasn't quite in range, but the Burrow Strike gets him into position to take Pingu down. The problem is, I'm not really sure what else he can get here, but with Yudomi coming in, maybe they could try it, but you see Giant dropping down those Remnants, keeping the Magnetize going. That should be enough to really dissuade Monster from going any further, especially with that tier 1 still standing. Only 76 HP, but it would still be able to fire some shots in, and Valky under the tower would be still a hard kill for them to get. But the pings are coming out. Mr. Jeans wants in. You see him taking the long route from behind here. What can he get onto? Swashbuckle gets him onto Giant. Kickback is going to be there, though, so Mr. Jeans can't get the kill initially, but they're still eyeing up Valky. He's going to go for that Rolling Thunder, and Pingu's coming in here as well, trying to sort of act as that deterrent, and it looks like he will do the job. Mr. Jeans uses the last few moments to back away, but there's so many heroes here. They've still got to be careful. A fight could break out if Mr. Jeans is lagging a little too far behind, but it doesn't look like 4 Gringos really want to go all the way in.
Yeah, Mr. Jeans is doing a really good job. I was going to say, at playing around those timings, I don't even think this Rupture is necessarily going to do anything. He's even going to eat the silence.
Giant?
He's really confident.
Okay, there's the roll-in with the kickback. That's a lot of extra damage taken, and, well, by itself, the Rupture didn't do it, but Giant is making plays, rolling forward again, stunning up, silence onto 2. Monster not able to get in there with the Burrow Strike, but now he's going to burrow in onto that Earth Spirit. Yuma, meanwhile, does deploy the Assassinate, so Giant will fall. Kids dropping as well. They need to get him out, but they can't. Devi able to find the kill. And this fight's getting very complicated because DNM actually just showed up on the back end, popped the ult to slow Yuma down long enough to find that kill, and if you're D2 Hustlers, you are spread way too thin right now. Devi's going to try to get away, but Valky needs just one more hit to bring him down, and, well, that one got a little bit too complicated. I don't think they realized DNM was coming in until it was too late. They just left Yuma on the back line, which normally would not be too big of a concern, but if he's in a 1v1 with the Medusa, it's not going to go well. Speaking of not going well, Pingu trying to get the hammer onto the high ground, but that'll just run him right into Monster. Unfortunate. Tried to get away. He'll still be taken down as D2 Hustlers tack on one final kill to the tally there. That's going to help sort of even things out a bit.
And unfortunately, I believe if DNM is a little bit sooner there, then maybe they get that kill onto the Pango in a slightly cleaner fashion. You don't need to trade out nearly as quickly, but that is your silver lining right now. DMM is absolutely massive. 3,000 net worth on the opponent's safe laner. Only a Maelstrom on that sniper. And I don't really expect Yuma thinking that he was going to get taken down in the fashion he did. Just absolutely got run down by the Mystic Snake spam coming in from DNM. Because that's not how that matchup goes. That's not why they picked this sniper. And that's where they have to be cautious. If they do get a little bit too split, they need a very strict structure on the D2 Hustler side. And with this offlane Sand King as well, you aren't really having that dedicated frontliner. Monster is definitely going to get up there once he finishes an item after this Blink Dagger. But for now, he is your counter initiation. He is a lot more complicated. Yeah.
Jumped in on initially, able to jump away. They threw the Rupture onto Mr. Jeans as well, but look at that. Devi in for the stun. Mr. Jeans should be traded out here, but this is turning into a very good fight for D2 Hustlers. Bad for 4 Gringos, yeah, as they're just getting, well, maybe not quite wiped out. Giant gets away, but that got so complicated. Kits thought he had spotted out an Enchantress alone. Doesn't really have the burst potential right now to find that kill, and it was not just the Enchantress. The rotation from D2 Hustlers is fantastic there to get everybody in, and they take the 3-for-1 trade. Now Yuma's pushing the tier 1 mid.
Yeah, and the story of this game, you lose track of the Nyx for a few seconds there, you don't have dust on him, or you misplace 1 or 2 sentries, and finally Kits gets taken down by it. That's something that they can't really allow any more of. If they allow this Nyx to actually play his hero, the game gets incredibly complicated, and that's where Giant, another very core aspect of this team, he needs to be the one getting on top of that hero, really countering out anything that Divide tries to get going for his team. And if he fails for even a few moments, the game gets very, very complicated for them to actually win those fights. Fights that maybe DNM's farm can help them out just a little bit, but successful team fights mean a scared Medusa on your side of the map and a free farming sniper on the other. And that's where this game, I'm starting to get flashbacks to that first series where they start losing a few team fights and DNM's the only one having a good game. I'm really worried if 4 Gringos running it back again.
And And Giant, as you said, the exact same scenario, just the flashbacks coming through from that clockwork. Very strong in the initiation, but the initiation power on that position 4 hero goes from a luxury to a necessity. And, I mean, Giant has been playing well, 4, 4, and 8, but you cannot hit 100% of these shots. That's just not going to happen statistically. So how do they respond? If Giant isn't able to find that initiation, who else steps up for them outside of just everybody hopping into DNM's backpack and having him carry them to a win? Because that's not really a guarantee either. So something has to change for Gringos. They need more options to work with moving forward. We'll see if they can make it happen as Monster very close. DNM's going to spot him. It's going to be the ping, but the blink from the Sand King gets him away in time.
Yeah, we're still playing that waiting game, but that's exactly what D2 Hustlers want to do. Of course, 4 Gringos are waiting for a few more items, but still, I'm very concerned for them right now. They need to get this mid tower, but Monster's been in the exact right place.
Just turning him back every time, clears through those creep waves so quickly, so not a lot of progress on the sort of aggressive front here trying to get those objectives. They've only claimed the tier 1 bot so far, although gonna have a bit of a pause here as Mr. Jeans is dealing with a little bit of a ping issue, 200 ping Systemai Llama, so they're gonna wait to get him back in. Monster, though, actually just dropped out as well. So having a bit of a connection issue for some of these players. We'll give them a moment to get back in, and now Valky, and now you'd okay. Well, we're all just dropping out now as the entirety of D2 Hustlers are gone, and Valky on the other side dropped out too.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Who knows what could happen, but when you have players playing in so many different regions, something's got to give. But even losing people on 4 Gringos,
God, they're playing musical chairs right now. One guy comes in, another guy drops out. Can we get everybody? Here they come. Yodomi, back in. By Llama getting back in here. Everybody, please take your seats. The presentation will begin in a moment. And we are just about good. Monster, come on, man. Just when I say we're looking good, he's going to drop out again. And plus they're saying they have an issue. Uh-oh. So this may be more than just a simple ping issue. Hopefully not, but we'll see if we can get an elaboration on what the issue is. Maybe they're just waiting to see if it clears up before really making anything too big. Got a bug where oh no. Automatically abandoned. That one I have not seen in a pro match in a little while, but
yeah, that is a well-deserved yikes. Well,
I mean, we're 18 minutes in. We got 30 kills on the board. It's not just a simple remake. Kit says you should be able to reconnect. But I don't know. In the past, when that sort of bug has poked its head, I don't know if it's been quite that simple. But hoping for the best.
We can only cross our fingers here. Yeah. Because these are the worst types of games, and if they confirm that he actually can't reconnect, then it's just throwing it up the pipeline to now what the decision is. Because this could be a pretty big fix, because otherwise this is just kind of awful. Whether or not we restart all the way in the draft or same draft, same heroes, it really makes this series a lot more complicated. And it kind of sucks for the team that feels like is pulling ahead a little bit here. At least they're pretty even right now if the game is actually irrecoverable, but that's still a pretty big string of bad luck. You hate to see it every single time.
Right. You just never want this scenario to happen. And as you said, at least this is not a runaway game, right? At least not yet. So we'll have to wait and see for some sort of ruling here. If D2 Hustlers can get their player back in, obviously that's the easiest and best solution, but I'm not really sure what the ruling is. And this is the thing, this bug, this one in particular has been around in various iterations for a while, but it crops up sort of so infrequently that we don't have standard procedure, quote unquote, across sort of every single tournament organizer. People kind of deal with it in different ways. So hopefully we don't have to get to that point, but if we do, we're going to have to kick it up to someone on a higher level to maybe make that call. But
Yeah, a higher power sucks too because DNM is right in front of a DD rune, so he's about to start farming, or he would be farming, but it's just hard to say. It's a hard call to make as well. I know different.
ooh,
Hmm,
admin coming in.
some different calls have been made across a lot of tournaments. I know that ESL specifically has had cases where they just make them play a completely new game because there have been a lot of issues because as soon as preparation's involved, it is a very different game that gets played. As soon as you know the moves that your opponents are going to make, especially teams that go for counter picks, I could definitely see if they were forced to play same draft D2 Hustlers pulling ahead a lot in the early game. And that's where those outstanding performances, even pulling away from D2 Hustlers like Mr. Jeans and Giant, you can't pull off everything.
And there is the law being thrown down. The admin saying that it's not going to be able to be remade. That sucks so
What
much for
can you
D2
do?
Hustlers. And yeah, what can you do? Devilam
I mean, they
sustain
just
you
What can you
they'll
vow.
just
do?
take a default loss.
They could
Like,
play it out 4v5. Have someone try to control the player's miss. Actually, might be 3v5. I thought it was Yuma who couldn't get back in. Monster's still DC'd as well, though. So at that point, yeah, if you need 3 players to control 5, I don't. Udomi says 1. Okay, so I assume Monster can get back in. Yeah, they're saying he's good. It's just Yuma who can't make it back. And that's your position 1 sniper that someone else will have to manage if they are going to sort of resume the game and try to play it out. So that's just such a rough scenario for them.
yeah, and of course, if they would end up losing this game, you're still on top. You are still now going to be tied with four Zoomers, depending on the outcome of whatever decision gets made here. But still, how unlucky can you be, actually?
Right.
It's a very unfortunate circumstance. That's just as bad as it comes, really.
And the thing is, the other thing to point out, if you're D2 Hustlers and you end up losing this match, sure, you got a point on the board, but this is not the way that you want to lose a game. And if you're for Gringos, you'll take the point because you don't have much of a choice, but this isn't the way that you want to have to get this 1-1 draw as well. You love having the result, but I'm sure every single guy on that for Gringos side would prefer to earn it in the full sort of 5v5 than this situation. So when things like this happen, it's just so unfortunate for both sides. Makes you kind of long for the days back when we had the load from replay feature, but that one's been out for quite some time now. But this is the exact scenario that a feature like that was sort of envisioned for. But I think D2 Hustlers at this point might just be out of options. They mentioned already he couldn't reconnect. They had Yuma restart his Dota. So admin said the game had to be resumed. We'll wait and see maybe if he just lets the pause time run out and then makes them make a choice and resume the game.
Yeah, it's still just awful. And I wonder if that's where for Gringos the pause time gets thrown down as well. I don't know. It's still a tough call to make. I'm sure nobody knows what the right decision to be made is here, but yeah, okay, they just call
Okay,
it.
that is so.
What is
Uh,
this?
They'll have to call it again, I think. I don't know if you can call from pause, but oh yeah, he's breaking his items. What can you do is the name of the game.
well, unfortunately, folks, it is going to be a bit of an abrupt end there as sometimes Dota 2 hits you in unexpected ways. That glitch, again, one that's been in there for a while, just never really been able to find a way to fix it. And for Gringos, I mean, they get the win, but this is not the way that they wanted it to go down. It's going to be a 1-1 draw, but very sort of anticlimactic.
Yeah, and of course now D2 Hustlers, they're still tied top with four Zoomers, but if there's going to be any question on whether or not they are in upper bracket by 1 point, that would be a really sad situation. But that is just awful. That sucks. What can you do? As they like to say, we got the black and yellow spam there, and now four Gringos have to go into their next series knowing that that's how they won. So
Yeah,
it's hard. That's rough.
that is the point to make as well. Four Gringos have a series coming up immediately after this one. So they get the win, but it's not much for momentum. Just the weird glitch coming out. Your opponent's call GG. So congrats, you win. But I don't know if Four Gringos feel great about that one moving into that next series. Also for D2 Hustlers, worth noting here, they're going to be playing later today as well. They're in the third series up against Team Team. So honestly, I think this was probably just a fluke accident, that bug sort of rearing its head, and not an issue fully with the internet connections for any of them. But hopefully by the time they are back in action later on this evening, they are going to have that sorted out. But just sometimes, sometimes Dota hates you. As anyone who's ever played any ranked match knows, this is a little bit different though. This is not just game is hard, this is game is a little bit bugged.
Yeah. All right, just fix the game. We've given you what over the past 3 years, $160 million on the records, twice as much that if it's under the table. Fix the
Yeah.
game.
Call up that janitor.
Come on.
Get it fixed. It's been a bug for a while, so yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, it's probably harder to fix than, just snapping your fingers. But still, you'd hope maybe one day we'll be able to not live under the ever-constant threat of that just goddamn bug. But our first series of the day, folks, is now over. Not in the way any of us expected, but it is what it is. So we are going to be moving on. Series number 2 will be coming up. As we mentioned, it is going to be Four Gringos in action once again. And they will be playing up against Black and Yellow. I believe we're going to be giving Four Gringos a little bit of time because they just came off of a series. Although, with the way this game ended, maybe that'll be shortened a little bit as well. You never know. But stuff getting weird right off the bat here in our first series. Hopefully we don't encounter any further issues down the line. But for now, we're going to be jumping into a break. We'll be moving into that next series in just a little bit, so stick around, and we'll see you then.